Yes, ancient Greek had multiple words for blue. If you are talking about colour terms in ancient Greek and the word for blue, and you don't know Greek, please stop for a minute, breathe, and count to 100.
But the fact is, it seems that civilizations, the Greeks, for example, some people say that the Greeks had no colour for blue.
Here's the entry for blue in Young's English-Greek lexicon, one of the few dictionaries in existence that translates English to ancient Greek. This isn't news. This lexicon was published in 1849. In fact, there are 3 words corresponding to colours that we'd call blue in English. Glaukos, kyanaeos, and in some contexts, lampros.
Is it Homer who refers to the wine dark colour of the sea rather than the blue of it?
Not exactly. That is a traditional English rendering of the Greek word oinopa, but it literally means wine-looking. It can't really be taken as a colour term, because wine-looking isn't used to describe anything else ever. It's best understood as figurative. There are suggestions as to the exact flavour of metaphor, but no standout winner. The origin of the metaphor is basically lost to time. The colour terms that get used for the sea in Homer are polios, or grey, melas, which represents a range of dark colours, and glaukos, which can be translated as blue. There's also aeroedes, which means misty or cloudy looking. Later Greek writers usually use the word kyanaeos, which represented a darker blue. This next bit is talking about the colour of the sky.
They struggle to do so and end up saying, it's bright, which is exactly what this bronze usage by the Greeks is evoking, the idea of brightness rather than the idea of blueness.
Bronze is not a colour term, and there's no reason to imagine it is. The Iliad says Achilles and Stentor both have a bronze voice. That doesn't mean their voices have a colour. Homer does call the sky bronze 3 times, but this definitely is figurative, and we know that, because in this case we do understand the imagery being used. The full imagery is bronze sky, iron ground. The same imagery appears in 2 Near Eastern texts written in the same century as the Iliad. In the Hebrew Bible, the book Deuteronomy, and an Assyrian text called the Succession Treaty of Esarhaddon. In all 3 texts, it's perfectly clear that the image is a pathetic fallacy. Harsh things are going on, and the universe, the sky and the earth, are pitiless. Nothing to do with colour.
Homer's works is they do contain the word kaianos, and in modern Greek, that word does mean blue. In fact, it's the origin of the English color word cyan, but at the time, it simply meant dark.
The word is kyanaeos. Kyanos refers to the mineral cyan, also known as kyanite, which, incidentally, is usually a fairly light blue. Colour essentialism is the name for the assumption that colour terms in different languages have a one-to-one correspondence with each other. It is wildly wrong. So it's a mistake to say, in this dialect, kyanaeos means blue, in this dialect it means dark. It means both. Ancient Greek had a pair of words, kyanaeos and melas, which approach black from opposite sides of the colour spectrum. So, kyanaeos represents a range of colours from blue to black, and melas ranges from red to black. So we find kyanaeos being used for black hair, as well as for things that we might call blue in English. Melas gets used for things that are black, but also for things like blood and red wine. Some things could be either, like soil and dark water. It's perfectly normal for colours in different languages not to be one-to-one. For example, the English word purple can be translated into German as either lila, violet, or purpur, depending on the shade. But some shades of purpur would be translated into English as red or pink. Russian has 2 colours where English has just blue. That doesn't mean any of these words can't be translated, it just means they don't have tidy equivalents. This video also says colour terms emerge in languages in a particular sequence. This is the Berlin and Kay theory of basic colour terms, where black and white are the first colour terms to appear, followed by red and then the others. I find the theory weak, given that ancient Greek, as I've just described, has two distinct terms for black. Along with that theory, and in the video, comes the notion that all languages derive their colour inventory from roots meaning dark and bright. That binary idea is inherited from Aristotle, who was writing specifically about ancient Greek, and even for Greek, Aristotle's theory doesn't make much sense. In the 21st century, it's generally not wise to rely on Aristotle for your understanding of how the world works. The upshot is different languages organize colours differently. For scholarly and scientific study of colour, best practice is not to translate them at all, because that always introduces colour essentialism. I'm afraid very little has ever been written about ancient Greek colours that is at all reliable. Even specialist publications are pretty poor if they translate the colour terms. Publications in other fields by people who don't even know the language are basically nonsense. Ancient Greek did have words for the colour of the sky. The most standard one was glaukos. The catch is glaukos could also be used for blue eyes, the sea, beryl, olives, and vine leaves. Here's cornutus, directly comparing olives to the sky because they're both glaukos. The line reads in translation, Zeus is crowned with olive because it's a perennial, rich and very useful, or because of its similarity to the glaukotes of the sky. English doesn't have a word that covers sky colour and olive colour. Does that mean we're unable to describe the colour of olives?